హీరోయిన్ లాంటి డబ్బింగ్ వాయిస్ కాదు మీది, చాలా రఫ్ అయిన వాయిస్ అన్నారు. హేటెడ్ ఇట్. ఐ థింక్ ఆన్ ద ఫస్ట్ డే ఐ వాజ్ లైక్, వై am I doing this in life? I don't think I'm actress material. Most of the women, the ones who had suffered, I think I shouldn't say that, we should edit that. Sir, no, a very fan. I know Chinmayi. I'm like, superstar knows my name, superstar knows my name.
Hello everyone, I'm Hemant Kumar and you're watching Talking Movies with iDream. Our guest today is a very popular singer, dubbing artist, entrepreneur and one of the most popular celebrities on social media. We are talking about Chinmayi, who's better known in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana as the voice of Samantha, apart from several other popular songs to her credit. So let's see what she has to say about her career and life in general, because she's so much more than just a singer. Chinmayi, thank you so much for joining us here. It's a pleasure to have.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Right, so what's going in your life? It's been quite some time since you've actually done a lot of work in Telugu, right?
Yeah, I think song-wise, I'm quite happy in the sense that I'm getting to sing a lot more songs in Telugu than I have before. Ideally, I think people in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana have identified me, as you said, as the voice of Samantha. And at times, when your primary identity as a singer and something that you have worked so hard for, and then you come to a state and people don't even recognize that you are a singer, I'm like, hello, what's going on, sort of a thing. Not to mention that I'm not grateful for the love and respect or adulation or anything else that you might want to call it that I have received as a dubbing artist, but somewhere I think the singer in me feels sad. The fact that I trained to be a singer and that I'm known as a playback singer everywhere else other than Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, of course, was a little bit of a thing. And now I think slowly that is changing, because Achu or Gibran and now Kalyani, Raghu Kunje has been giving me songs from the time, for a really long time actually. He's been really supporting me and stuff like that. And right now I think Kalyani Garu, he gave me a really lovely song in an upcoming movie, and I'm glad. But the strangest thing is that it took a girl who was dubbing here to actually sing songs in Hindi to be recognized in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana.
Really?
Yeah, I think until Titli happened, nobody really cared much. Okay. And I remember Anup Rubin saying that he didn't know I sang Titli, he didn't know I sang Zainasib. He said, really, you sang that? I'm like, is that a compliment or is that like a veiled insult? I'm just joking. But yeah, Anup had no clue that I sang those Hindi songs. And so it took for people here to recognize me as a singer only after I started singing in Hindi, which is kind of ironical, but yeah, I guess that's how destiny takes its course.
It's interesting that you talk about being recognized as a dubbing artist first and then as a singer, especially in Telugu, right? Did you take a lot of time to get used to that idea that you're probably more popular as a dubbing artist than as a singer in Telugu?
No, I think that was the only idea that I was used to. A lot of people mention, when I do a couple of television mainstream media interviews, they say that they really love the song that I sang in Amrita, and I'm like, okay, then what happened, right?
Yeah, right.
So if you but then I guess my singing was not that much of a sensation as the voice of Jessie created. Or I don't know what I don't know, there must be a mini slip between the cup and the lip, as they call it. So I really don't understand what didn't happen or did happen, that it took its own sweet time. But then I think when Jessie also happened, I was a very unusual dubbing voice. I was not the usual voice that people in Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh at that time heard of. So I remember a playback singer telling me that unfortunately he's no more. The gentleman who sang Kevu Keka. Sri Lekha is also somebody who's given me a lot of songs through time. So when I went to sing a song for Sri Lekha, so this gentleman who sang Kevu Keka, he came to me and said, actually heroine lanti dubbing voice kaadu meedi chala rough aina voice annaru. I'm like, yeah, I know that. I really know that. But incidentally, I think it took somebody like a Gautam Menon to bring in that different tonality, and it just goes to probably show that you sometimes have to throw something different at the audience for them to understand that, okay, this also can be there. Because, until then, simple things that, one of the biggest things I'm grateful for in dubbing is that when you become a dubbing artist, you actually get to know a lot of people behind the scene. You get to meet the cinematographer sometime, you get to meet the editor, you get to meet people who are doing the entire soundscape design for the film. And when you're a singer, you come to the studio, they give you the song, the lyrics, everything happens in maximum, give or take 45 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. And if at all, if it's like a really, let's say that the studio is chock-a-block, lots of stuff happening, so you put in some wait time into it. Sometimes a day goes in it at the max, but mostly because of the waiting time. But while you're dubbing, I started asking questions about how does this work, how does that work, and Gautam sir, every time that he was always there at the dubbing studio. He was very, very, very hands-on. He carved out every scene during dubbing. He said, this is what I want from the girl who speaks for Jessie. This is how I want Jessie to sound. So I think people keep telling me that did you ever think that your voice would have stuck to Samantha like this? I didn't think about all that. Honestly, I wasn't thinking, because before Vinay Tandivarvaya, I had voice tested for Trisha earlier, and for Bhima, if I'm not mistaken. So Lingasamy sir said it didn't work.
Okay.
So for that particular character in Bhima, it didn't work for Trisha, but for Jessie, that tonality worked, that I guess that voice projection worked. But if Jessie or the dubbing for Jessie was as successful, 50% of the credit goes to the sound engineer who recorded me, Mr. Mahesh. Okay. So he had a lot of work to do when you're actually dubbing line by line, going, that's all you're speaking, right? So when you're speaking so much, the intensity has to come through, plus the room noise. So how do you clean that? He cleaned it line by line and raised the voice levels. But Gautam sir was very clear. He doesn't want me to raise my voice. And when you raise your voice, your tone changes automatically. So, which is why I keep saying that whatever adulation that I have got for Jessie, the 50% goes to the engineer, because I don't know if any other engineer would have taken that amount of, because everybody will say, no, raise your voice, I can't hear you. It happened once. I mean, if Gautam sir could create that tone, and then because it was Samantha's debut in Telugu, she had already done a film in Tamil, it was her debut in Telugu, and because the film was such a huge hit, it just stuck. That's all I would say, because people, as soon as they saw this really lovely, pretty face on screen that was like a breath of fresh air, they heard this voice along with it, and hence people got used to it. That's all. I just keep saying that if it had not been me, if it had been any other XYZ who dubbed for Samantha, they would have been equally popular.
So do filmmakers now insist that you use a very similar voice when you dub for other actresses? For
Iga, Rajamouli sir was very clear that he wanted me to bring in that husky tonality that Samantha was associated with, and that was there. But after that, I think whether it was Seethamma Vakitlo Sirimale Chettu or other films, she had a very different attitude, and hence the bubbliness, the ticket mark bubbliness and the happiness had to come. So that won't work in a husky tonality. So that changed after a point.
So you've dubbed for quite a few actresses also, and quite a few films in both Telugu and Tamil. What's the toughest thing in that whole process?
Andala Rakshasi took me a lot of time. That I think Mr. Hanu had a certain vision. Again, he is a director who's very clear about what he wanted, and how he wanted his character to sound, and which is why once I got to know Rahul really well, he told me that he was very surprised that Hanu actually wanted me to dub for Lavanya. And it is actually strange that somebody who's heard my voice for Samantha in Yema Save would actually think that I could suit the voice, I mean the character for Lavanya, because that's a world apart. But clearly he saw something that others didn't, and he was also like that. He acted out every scene right there, and it was a breeze dubbing for Lavanya, because she said every line correctly in Telugu, and except maybe for that very mild North Indian accent, she would easily pass off for somebody who'd been here and probably doing it. So it was very easy for me to lip sync to a girl who had already spoken the language perfectly. And every time, whether it was Nana Naku Torga Pelli Chesandi Nana, I mean, that was for me the most favorite takeaway dialogue, that scene between her, the mother, the father, and the Bama and everything. That is and what is the toughest? Yes, because that I think took 3 or 4 days, my longest ever, because I had to keep throwing my voice, and my voice would be tired. And his concept was all these 3 characters want to be close to each other, but there is always this perennial distance. And how do you convey distance? By shouting at someone. And that...
Oh, that's the logic why they keep shouting all the time.
They're calling out each other, because that at some point, and when they come closer, they start whispering. And then the distance grows, and then the voice starts throwing. And that is amazing.
That's an interesting perspective. I've never
thought about it. No, that was his perspective. It was actually strange that the general public didn't get that concept. And also, this is something that Gautam sir used to constantly, say, that, a lot of people will be dubbing, and he'll be like, why do you want to shout at somebody who's sitting right next to you? He can hear you. Don't shout. You don't know the, hey, I love you. You don't have to say that. You say, just say, I love you. I mean, you sitting that close to someone, why would you scream out, ki, I love you, or unless they are at the other end of the road or something, right? So, he'll say, brother, brother, she's right next to you, or he's right next to you. Don't shout. Tone down. So, I think he changed a lot of people's, even for people, Mr. Ganesh or Mr. Salambarasan, that when they were dubbing, his constant thing would be lower.
Now I think I totally understand why people speak so low in Gautam Menon's film.
Yeah, because there is no distance between his, not too much of a physical distance between his characters. And when you're that close to somebody, why do you need to shout into their ears? Unless and until you're angry with them.
I was actually curious to know, what is tougher for you to project? Is it happiness, sadness, or any other emotion that
happiness.
You... Really?
Yeah.
I mean, why is that so?
I'm not a default, I'm more...
Don't tell me you're a Dukhi Atma for some
I'm
reason.
not a Dukhi Atma, but I think I'm a lot more deep. I'm not the bubbly type. I'm not the jumping jelly beans girl. I have never been that. I've always been silent. I have been this, there has been a lot of melancholy in me, which is why I think even earlier, people used to by default give me sad songs rather than the happier ones.
How would they even know that they should give you?
That, I think it came from that, I think, which is why Devam Tanda Puve in Tamil and Amrita and Telugu worked for a lot of people, because it had this strain of melancholy throughout. Okay. And then once people, same thing, first impression, and then they'll keep slotting you into the same thing. After Amrita, I remember I was given at least 5-6 songs which were all about the mother sentiment. I was always singing for the mother. And then it took again Rahman sir for him to cast me into somebody who was younger. Then Nee Manasu Naku Telusu and films like that happened, and Kalsukundama and those songs happened. But until then, a lot of people couldn't even identify that somebody that young I was 15 when I sang that song.
Amrita.
And I remember S.J. Surya reacting, saying, I didn't expect you to be this young. I thought you would be at least 32 or something, for the depth in the voice and the depth in emotion, as they called it. I said, well, how old I am, that's not going to change. So, I think by default people cast me in sad songs. Thankfully, Bollywood didn't do that to me. Thankfully. All thanks to Shekhar sir and everybody else, and Vishal sir and Amit Trivedi and everybody else who've given me these happy songs in life.
Right. So, talking about your Bollywood career, you've got some really amazing songs, Titli, or even the song from Hasi To Fasi, and recently you sang one song for Kareena Kapoor.
Yeah.
Right. So, how's that coming along? Like, are you enjoying your time there?
I'm loving it. I have always wanted to, I think, especially after Tere Bina, everybody took notice of that song. Everybody took note of the singer. But then nothing moved. Maybe because I didn't move to Bombay and make this usual hello, how are you, I'm Chinmayi, will you, that sort of a thing. I was always uncomfortable with that idea. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
For me, the concept of cold calling or barging into somebody's place without intimation or without the right methodology protocol was very important for me. It still is.
Okay.
I'll not cold call somebody unless somebody has introduced me and said, and then I'll be, even after a lot of trepidation, I follow it up. But which is why when Shekhar sir came down, he came to Chennai to record musicians and to work with Gopi Sundar for Chennai Express. And I asked him later, because I never contacted them. I said, that's so random. How did you remember, or how did you think of calling me, of all things? And he said he remembered the girl who sang Tere Bina lived in Chennai. I was like, wow, that's random, because after 6 years or something, you remember a song, and then after that it was quick. He told Gopi Sundar to call me, I landed up and I recorded. So if the second innings of sorts, I've always maintained that every singer requires a second break, and then they require a third break. So thankfully in Tamil, Rahman sir gave me my second break in Sahana, in Superstar Sir's film.
Right.
And the second break in Hindi happened thanks to Shekhar sir and Vishal sir. And then he, right after Titli, he followed it up with a Zeh Naseeb, and in between such lovely songs happened. Incidentally, Mithun was the first person from Bollywood to get in touch with me after Tere Bina.
Okay.
He gave me this really lovely song in this film called Lamha, called Madno. It's a gem of a song, one of the most beautiful compositions I've heard and also been a part of. So he came down to Chennai to record me, and this was right after, shortly after Tere Bina. But then it didn't follow through after that. And then Mithun also gave me much later, I think recently, last year, there was this film called Samrat and Co. He gave me a lovely solo in that one. So there were, I think, if Titli hadn't happened, all these other, these songs that have become really popular wouldn't have happened. And Mera Naam Mary happened due to Amitabh Bhattacharya.
Okay.
He messaged me one day and he said, there's this song, there's this fast number that Ajay Atul I suggested that they listen to your voice, and I said I've been huge fans of I've been a huge fan of Ajay Atul ever since I heard their work in Agnipath.
Okay.
And especially O Saiya, the Roop Kumar Rathorji's song. And I said, if it happens, if this goes through, this will be a dream come true. And it was. And Mr. Ajay is such a die-hard fan of Ilayaraja sir, and there's so many things that he shared about. And he also said that, and very sincerely he said, if I could be his car driver and clean his car and just see him each day, I'll be very happy. And the utter devotion that he has, and then there were some things about Marathi, the language itself, and how they're working on it. He's such a knowledgeable person. And that happened only because of Amitabh Bhattacharya. And then Mr. Ajay sent me the link of their original Marathi song, Ye Go Ye Maina, and they said, why don't you send me a voice note of how you sing this? So I sent them a voice note, and the recording was fixed, and Mary happened. So Mr. Siddharth, I guess I have to thank him too. He was there through the recording. Amitabh was there, and so were Ajay. And definitely, Mera Naam Mary was a projection that I had never attempted in my life. There's a song like that wasn't given to me in Tamil, not in Telugu, not in Malayalam, not in Kannada. And I was very, very nervous. Okay. I was like, damn, how am I going to do this? And Ajay sir was very patient, and it helped that he's an outstanding singer. So he all that I had to do was copy him, to as much as I could. And I have this problem of acidic self-criticism. So while I'm recording, I'm criticizing myself. So that doesn't help. So I keep shooting myself in my own foot. That's my biggest problem with my personal performance. But they were kind enough to work with me, be patient with me, and marry happened. Yeah.
So, has there ever been a song which you are completely happy with after singing?
No, I'm
Never.
never happy.
Really? Why is that so?
So, as I said, the acidic self-criticism, I'm never good enough. Actually, forget about good enough. I think I'm terrible. That's my problem.
Even when Rahman sir agrees, okays your song.
Yeah, I
Even
still
then
think
you're
I'm terrible. I think I'm down. I'm always down in the dumps. I'm like, damn, I didn't do well. I sometimes think I must go and meet a shrink and probably do something about my self confidence levels. I have zero self worth and zero self confidence. People think I'm this egotist, uh, you know, you know, high-handed behavior sort of a person, but I'm actually the exact opposite. Self-doubt, self-criticism, and zero self-worth and zero self-confidence. That's me.
Now you're very actively singing in Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, and other languages as well. So your schedule must be all over the place, right? You're traveling so much. So how do you keep up with?
See, such schedule. It happens in bursts. So it's not like we are not like actors where the schedule is chock a block for 45 days or 35 days or 20 days or something. I still don't know. See, I know what I'm going to be doing until say 4 days later. Yeah. After that, I have no clue what's going on. Unless and until it's a concert overseas, which is scheduled at least 3 months in advance. Those are the things that are planned ahead because of visas and official other things. But my schedule is always changing at the drop of a phone call and booking of a flight. So
Right.
it's fine. I like it. Some days it's exhausting. I should be honest. Some days I wish I can just sleep it off. But I'm very happy. This is what I wanted. This is where I wanted to be in life, and I'm very grateful.
Like what? Living out of the suitcase? Like,
I don't mind that. If I don't live out of the suitcase now, I don't get to work with as many new composers and as many new songs and as much of a rich musical experience. But I guess living out of the suitcase was always written.
but this also means that you might miss out on a lot of songs because you're at a different place when they require you in that studio, right?
That is something that we can't help it. I mean,
Right.
if I have to lose out on a song because I'm in a different place, it already did happen a couple of days ago, but can't help.
You just let it go, is it?
You got to let it go. Initially, it'll be like, but then what do? You can't be at two places. That's when I wish science can come up with something interesting so I can be at two places at the same time. I have always fantasized splitting into 3 or 4 people so that I could go full time learn somewhere and learn music full time, and then be home and do my baking and just being at home and all that. The other person must be performing and doing all that. Once in a while, all these 4 personas should come together and completely take down all this collective wisdom and then go like that. I keep thinking of it. But yeah, I have no clue if that's happening in a parallel universe, but right now it's not happening in my
Your brain
conscious.
must be going haywire with all these ideas that you want to really
Yeah,
experiment with.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Why is that so? Are you a very restless person? Do you want to do too many things at once?
I'm restless, yes. So there are times that I'd like just be in the same place. I'll sit through the day in one place also. That's also possible.
Very impulsive.
I'm impulsive also.
Right.
Impulsive. I'm a restless soul. I'm all over the place, and also I can be at one place in one corner through the day.
So you're also juggling with a lot of other stuff other than singing and dubbing, right? You have your own translation company, Blue Elephant, and recently you started another architectural decor thing, right? So why? I mean, that's all I want to know. Right?
Why what? Why the
Why
architectural?
so much thing? Like you cannot draw a line saying that maybe this is what led her to do this, because a lot of people are very focused on what they want to do, and you somehow manage to find time for everything. So how does that happen?
See, Blue Elephant happened because I learned German and French before I finished school.
Okay.
And a cousin asked me to translate a 120-page document, and from there I realized that there is a need for a company that gives services such as these. And my singing career hadn't taken off in such a big way that I was so busy, and it helped that I could finally I could get some sort of a financial security from a company, which is why Blue Elephant started because of several reasons. One, the biggest reason was financial security.
Okay.
The second one was it was something completely different from what I was doing, art and the everything that is not structured to something that's structured and that's corporate and deadlines. I like that. And also, if you look at it, again, I'm doing things which all have one creative scheme running through. Language and translation requires a certain talent. It's not something that somebody can just sit, just because you know two languages doesn't mean that you can be a good translator. And my innate love for learning cultures and so many things about cultures and languages, which is why I think once I was speaking to my Latvian and my Lithuanian translator, and they were talking about how many similarities there were between Sanskrit and Lithuanian languages,
Right.
and even customs, the fire practices and things, until I think the Christian missionaries came through, and how what they called as pagan, what was their version of nature worship.
Right.
And nature worship is also very something that's part of our lifestyle here in India.
True.
So he was talking about so many such similarities, and these are things that that were mind blowing for me about 10 years ago. And each time I speak to, say, for example, in I think Korean, I think it's Amma is Amma in Korean as well, and also in Japan, one of the biggest. This is something that my mentor told me when I went for this US State Department mentoring program, that one of the biggest challenges of Japanese women is that they need to come up with creatively presented bento boxes each day for lunch for their kids. Otherwise, it's peer pressure, and that apparently takes them 2 or 3 hours to design. And apparently, when she went to Japan, she asked these women, "What is your biggest challenge in the corporate sector?" And they said bento boxes. That they had to design their school kids' lunch boxes in a different way. Each day it has to be creatively, beautifully decorated, and you can, Japanese and the sticklers for everything, perfection and everything else. So they actually work up at 4 to design these boxes for at least 2.5 to 3 hours. And I'm like, oh my good Lord, lunch box for your kid, and that's a peer pressure, and then hence the woman doesn't get to sleep as much as she'd like to. Right. This is something that she heard, so I'd really like to go back and find out if this is as big a challenge as it is even today. So many such cultural things. Even in India, I keep asking a lot of people about why do they do this, why do they do that. Each community, if there is a certain religious practice that they do, what is the story behind it? I'm interested in such stories more than anything else. For example, there's the Chettiars in Tamil Nadu have this thing called Pullayar Nombi. So since they were traditionally merchants, they would be seafarers. So before they set off for sail, apparently they would have this puja for Ganpati, and there'll be a lamp, and they will swallow the lamp along with the wick and the flame. So I said, why? So I was fascinated by it, and I said, I want to know this. I want to come and see. So I saw one such thing where all the men, women, everybody will swallow that lamp. It would be lit there. It would be made of flour, of course. It's not a clay lamp. I should have said that. So it's a flour, I think rice flour and other things. So they will light it and swallow it. So I presume by the time it actually, when they close their mouth, I think the flame would have gone out, but it looks scary. You're actually swallowing flame and all that. So by default, and I would be very interested to know why in weddings or rituals, or why some rituals happen in a certain order. And when I attended the same family's wedding in Chettinad, they had brought the goldsmith, and he was making the thali right then and there. He was forging it there and during the muhurtam. And I'm interested in all these stories about cultures and people and languages. Maybe at some point I'll probably even pick up anthropology, but someday.
A lot of singers would say that music is their life, and they dedicate a lot of their lives and also time on a daily basis to music or enhancing their skill. So, but you're doing multiple things in a given month or a time frame. So, where does music fit into that?
Music is always primary, because if music isn't there, all these other things can't happen. I keep wandering and I come back to music. That's the way I'm made.
Do you draw strength from it?
Yes, I do. I draw strength from it. Sometimes I draw multiple things from it. And my primary identity as a musician, my primary, even for my own self, for my soul, music is important.
So has there been a time frame where you were probably very depressed in life, and how did you get over that?
I have been at various different points in time where, there are times when people will pull you down in several ways, and it's very easy to play with my head. A lot of people know that.
Okay.
And the smart ones have figured it out even faster than the slower ones. So they know how to mess around with my head, and there was a point in time when a set of people had messed it up enough to make me doubt whether I must continue being a musician, continue being a singer.
I mean, what happened? Like, was it that bad?
It was, once it's very subliminal. You keep telling somebody while you're recording that you're not good enough. Or maybe, why don't you try and sound like this person? They're good. So at that point, it's not jealousy.
Right.
But they probably already knew that I have my tendency to be self-critical is high. So then I came to this point where I thought my diffidence was getting played up a lot more. So I thought maybe I'm not good enough. Why should I continue if I'm not good enough? Right? I'd rather go do something else. And if I'm that bad, I shouldn't continue and I shouldn't be here. So that was what I was. Because and somehow, because my mother was my guru, she kind of brought me up in a way. There was no praise at home. She still does not and continues to not praise me, saying that you're already getting enough praise from your husband and in-laws, and it's already gone to your head, and I can't deal with you anymore, sort of a thing. So she said, "Well, I can't keep praising you. Praise doesn't come from home." I completely believe in that concept of praise not coming from home. You're already listening to so much of praise outside. But unfortunately, I was a child which I think all the criticism probably didn't do me good. I'm trying to rewire it, but I'm not able to change that at all. I'm not able to change it. Maybe it's good. Someday I'll find an answer to why I'm wired or why I'm made this way. So yes, there was a time where I was extremely diffident. Sometimes colleagues, sometimes seniors, sometimes others.
You've had a very serious childhood, is it? Like
very, very serious childhood. Very serious childhood. I don't think there was this concept of fun and being jolly and happy-go-lucky and sunshine and all that didn't happen. It was mostly grey clouds. That's what my childhood was all about. And even until growing up, I think until Rahman sir's opportunity to sing in Kanathal Muthamittal came through, life was very bad. It was mostly struggle after struggle after struggle, and which is what I think a lot of times I've even blogged about it, saying that each time I think in our lives, every light at the end of a tunnel, we'd be wondering if it's an oncoming train. It's one of as that very old saying goes. Thankfully, that one time it was a beacon of light and not a train. So one thing led to another, and then even after having such a dream break, life wasn't a bed of roses for me, even if people think it is. Right. So I have felt depressed then. I have felt not depressed, not in the clinical sense of it, but I have seriously doubted where I was. I've gone through tough phases in various different ways. Also, I think there was this time where the social media harassment became really high.
Right.
For something as simple as one girl just generally responding to me saying that, I wish I could, I come from a family which cannot afford to pay for a medical, school degree. I wish I could do that even though I have some 98% or 99% or so. So I said, I wish there was a way that you could also, there must be a way of recognizing talent in this country. Yeah. So not only, thankfully, see, I come from a school, in the sense of not the school. I come from this pedagogy which is into music, where how well you sing, or how if it was more about destiny and luck, what your last hit determines your next song, right? But by default, you need to sing well.
Right.
You need to be in pitch at least to a certain extent, in spite of auto tune and everything else. You need to be able to play a certain musical instrument in a certain way. You need to know if you're a musician or if you're an arranger. You need to know the skill, you need to know your tools, your software, you need to know all that to be a musician. You can't, and your caste or your community and your religion doesn't define you.
Right.
Unfortunately, I guess it doesn't work like that for several other things in our country. So I wish there was a way that you could still do it. I mean, I wish there was a way that financially, people who are not doing so well but who are still talented could get to study what they wanted.
Right.
And then that somehow got taken out of proportion, and people said things that I didn't say, and things about fishermen and then suddenly my caste came into play, which something that's an identity I never really wore, and I never had to also. It is not something that I have grown up listening to, saying that you belong to this caste and hence no, you can do. I grew up knowing I am the daughter of a divorcee. By default the society is going to be bad to me, so more judgmental about me, and I'm the daughter of a divorcee who's into films and who's singing, so how much more cliched can it get about, oh my god, I'm being judged in every which way. So I am brought up to not judge people, and until I think my 10th standard or 11th standard, until they asked me what this, I didn't know what an FC, BC or an OBC and all this stood for.
Right.
Until then, none of it mattered. My grandparents didn't tell me what I was. I didn't know the difference between one sect and the other. I only knew about praying, I knew about going to the temple, I knew about some rituals that they used to do at home, but I had no clue about what it's associated with a certain caste. We didn't grow up like that.
Right.
That's not how my family was. And unfortunately, the general public and the newly outraging social media keyboard warriors don't understand all that. And I was naive. I presume that we are all like you and me. So if we disagree on something, we can have a very civil discussion about it.
Right.
And
of course, that didn't happen.
it didn't happen.
Right.
So it went into an all-out caste base. You bloody this caste woman, you shall be raped and cut and thrown. And what surprised me the most was there was this doctor from the UK, or so she claimed. She blogged about it, saying that this is such an accurate revenge on somebody who's belonging to an oppressed class. I'm like, what? He is a certain somebody I meet on social media. How do I know which caste he is? Number one. Second, you have spoken against all fishermen because you are belonging to this caste. I said, I don't think so. I didn't say that.
But you did take a very brave stand against the whole issue, right?
Absolutely. I'm proud of it. In spite of a lot of people saying that I got help because the government doesn't care about me. I'm one of the several crores of people who was in Tamil Nadu. I went and took legal help, and legally my case was under 66A, which was very debatable. I still stand for freedom of speech, but it was not only because of 66A, it came under women harassment.
Okay.
And it was of the 6 people or the 5 people I think that I lodged a case under, the police were able to, they were really, they could go and find those people only because of my fans. I have to tell you that, because my fans helped give me the addresses of those people. Otherwise, it's like a needle in a haystack. We gave them the addresses of 2 people, they found them.
There was also a rumor that somebody lost their job because of that.
Yeah, because one of them was a government employee. He was an assistant professor with the National Institute of Fashion Technology, and which is what was more surprising, that you are an educator, you are educating kids, and you have such a misogynist persona to yourself on social media, and you are very open about it. You put it up on your Twitter bio saying that I'm an assistant professor at NIFT and I shall say whatever I want, you are a damn woman, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, whatever. So one of these guys became really violent, and violent in speech rather. So I put up his photograph on my Facebook page and asked, can anybody identify him? I want to lodge a case.
Right.
So fans got back, said this guy is my professor. Shit. A lot of girls got back saying that we have been affected by him in class as well. So I got a lot of thank yous privately, saying that thank you, something that we couldn't do, you did. So I said I'm very, very, very proud if that can happen. I think it's a rule about something, that if you're a government employee and if you have been behind bars for X number of days, I'm not sure exactly how much,
Okay. Then,
you automatically lose your
Okay.
job or something.
is it still the case, or have you taken it lightly now?
It's still it's still what the case?
Well, is the online trolling so severe even now, or have you
I'm
just
sure.
moved
I
on?
think
You
I
don't
think
care?
trolling
no?
has those guys don't come,
Okay.
but trolling is going to be a part of our generation. I think this newfound. A lot of people see. I think also have to understand that social media is not being used only by the people in the cities. It's not being
Right.
used by people like you and me, who would wait, pause, think about what we are saying to someone else. Even in our best of times, I think even we would react at points. So here, I think we have users of social media coming in from areas which didn't, location geographically, which believe that women or men or people should behave in a certain way. This is what society is about, and all you guys are kalank to the society concept of society. So right now, social media is becoming the melting pot, not cities. Social media is the melting pot, and hence it's going to be a clash of a lot of mindsets coming together, saying that you sing in the films, and how can you talk about morals? This is how things are for somebody from a smaller town. This is what they have grown up hearing. So until they read, they open their minds. We also open our minds about how people can think and how and not holding anything against anybody. It will take some time, but now I think right from the advent of the internet to cell phones to everything our generation has seen, so eventually it'll all settle in a while, I presume.
You actually tweet about a lot of topics, and you never refrain from putting your thoughts across. Would you ever hesitate to state your mind, on Twitter, knowing that probably your opinion might create a lot of backlash to it?
I have done that, and sometimes I have been prevented from doing so for my own for my own health and safety reasons.
Has Rahul got something to do with that?
No, my mother has more to do with it than Rahul. Rahul sometimes says, "Can you please think this through before you tweet?" But my mother has access to all my accounts, so she'll go and delete it.
Oh.
Right then and there. She knows the passwords, she knows everything, she'll go and delete it.
God
Okay.
knows how many DMs she has read so far. No?
No, I mean, which is why I couldn't care less. I mean, it's not as if I've maintained this in every interview that I have, and people also know that.
Okay.
I mean, she's also made people, let people know in no uncertain terms that it's, out there.
Right.
So but it is for my own convenience that she has my, email passwords, and sometimes that I can't respond to something, she
Right.
has to respond. Let's say I don't have access to the internet. Somebody else has to do that. So she has always been that person. Whether she's an equal partner with Blue Elephant.
Okay.
So she's also managed the company when I can't, and that's most of the time she's been handling clients to.
She's always been a central figure in your life, right?
Yeah.
Your whole life revolved around her.
And her whole life revolved around me more than anything else,
Right.
more than the other way around. So so I guess these days sometimes I wonder, should I? But then I'm still vocative about things that I think is dharmic in my opinion.
Right.
But then dharma itself is a very grey area. Somewhere there, it's in the grey. It's not in the white. It's not in the black.
Talking about your tweets, it was interesting to see you tweet about how lucky you were to marry a guy who's more feminist than you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, Rahul is a feminist, and I'm actually a lot more feminist than I am. A lot, actually, absolutely not judgmental about anybody or anything. So sometimes, let's say somebody is reacting to me in a really random way, and I'm like, what the hell is this person talking? If I'm lamenting loudly, he'll be like, why don't you think of it the other way? And in the next moment, I think thankfully most times I'm a sane individual, so I'm immediately looking at the other point of view. I'm like, yeah, right, why didn't I think of this? So he always dissipates, and he lives by this benefit of doubt, give benefit of doubt. I think all the time he gives benefit of doubt, and I don't think he really takes anything at face value. or rather he takes things that and even if, especially if it is negative, or if you perceive some negativity, he'll be like, no, it's absolutely fine, don't think about it. So the more positive you are to things, the more positivity will come to you. I'm like, some days I can, most days I'm like fine, some days I'm like, I can't take this. I'm going to rant and let me rant. Thankfully his mom, my mom-in-law and I gang up on that against him, so those days are his bad days. But he is somebody who, in this 2+ years of knowing him, 1.5 of being married, I have never once heard him gossip about somebody. I'm married to him, but he doesn't gossip about anybody to me. And I'm not saying this for the sake of cameras, just the way he is. And he also doesn't listen to gossip about anybody from anybody else. So that, I think, is a mark of somebody who, as a human being, and I'm not saying because I'm married to him, I'm glad that I am able to share this life with somebody who has such lofty ideals. But I think all of us at some level decide to speak about somebody. Sometimes it's parliamentary, sometimes it's not. So he reminds me to always be the better person.
Right.
So it's good to have a walking, living example right in front of you. Sometimes it's irritating, I can tell you that. I'm like, all right, I want to be right now. I want to be, gorging on chocolate and everything else. Can you not be Buddha Bhagavan? I'm not interested. For example, like that. So, but yeah, I think I have. Not once has he complained, not even when he was at the receiving end of a lot of nonsense. And I will be like on burning coals of sorts, because I get angry when things are not right. He doesn't. Like, how? I've
never seen him angry,
No.
Past 3 years, right?
No, never. And I don't get it. I think once, if he loses it, he apparently goes silent or something like that. But I think there was probably once, but I can't even remember for how long he was angry. I don't think he was angry really. But yeah, he's a very interesting individual, always, and also very, very worldly wise, in the sense of he knows the world around. He's also curious about the world. I learned a lot about. He loves reading and geopolitics or anything else. He has a very interesting perspective on things. The other day I remember going and repeating one of his perspectives on this Black Mirror. And Rahman sir said, "Enna ipdilla yosikringa? How come you're thinking like?" I said, "Na yosikala. I am not thinking. That would be my husband. He told me this, and hence." So yeah, I mean, he is a very interesting mind. I really love reading his reviews and his point of view on the films that he watches. And I think one such conversation is what eventually ended up in us getting to know each other better and dating, and then eventually getting married. A conversation about the Ramayana.
What was that about?
I think right now the way this country is better that we don't talk about it. We'll keep this off camera. Everybody is taking offense to everything. Yeah, I think right now I don't think even Sri Rama or Sitama would be that unhappy about people questioning. Because I have tweeted about it, I think it's okay. I have blogged about it also. I had just dubbed for Sri Rama Rajam in Tamil.
Okay.
So I was very affected by the suffering of Sita. The character of Sita had to go through in the film, and I said, how can a responsible man, in my opinion, Sri Rama failed in his duty as a king and as a husband. If you thought that it was very important for you to dump your wife because she was questioned by a washerman, that's fine. You're doing your dharma as a king, where you should be above question, and so should your wife. I guess that was his dharma or whatever. But is it not your duty and responsibility to personally give her, or if you can't do it, if it is below your dignity to do so, make sure that she is safely handed over to somebody and not just dump her in the middle of the forest, right? How can Lakshmana just dump her and say, okay, chalo, fine. Yeah, it's a different story that she's Lakshmi Devi's avataram and all that. But you just left her in the middle of the forest after knowing she's pregnant. I mean, what sort of a man does that make you? You know that she is pure. I mean, those were the questions that I had. I blogged about it, and I said, I don't understand. So how come Sri Ramachandramurthy is being lauded as the Uttama Purusha, because I don't know, there are flaws. But then somebody came and said that he in spite of being the god, he had to be the human being, and a human being meant he should have flaws. Right. But I think those were the questions. But by default, I think the women in our Puranas have always been the ones who had suffered, be it Draupadi or be it Urmila, who is Lakshmana's wife, or be it Sitama, or most of the women. So that's where, and then I told him about another version of the Ramayana that I had heard from someone, and that's where our conversation actually started.
Okay, right. You two are completely polar opposite in a lot of aspects. So, how does it work? Like, what are your discussions like? Is it always very intellectual?
Mostly.
Okay.
Maybe that's why it works. I've always maintained that in my life, if I ended up marrying someone, I must be in a position to be able to learn something from them, right. Even if not on a daily basis, at least occasionally. Thankfully, he turned out to be that. There's pressure on him now.
He did teach you a lot about football, right? No.
Yeah. He tries, poor thing. I think once in a while I just pick up the joystick and I'm like, okay, this is too boring. I can't do this. And can keep doing. There was a time that I used to be maniacally playing the software games as long as they were inside a computer and a monitor. But after that, I think the PS4s and 3s of the world happened. I'm not.
What games are you playing? Or were you playing?
I used to be playing Legacy of Kain and stuff like that. Basically,
not bad at all.
Yeah. You recognize Legacy of Kain? That's great. I mean, I had one running theme in all my video games. It always had to be a guy fighting for justice and killing the bad people. Always. Or maybe I think if I were a little light-headed, I'll just pick up some treasure hunting, gold coin collecting sort of a thing.
You were looking for a purpose even in that. That's sort of unbelievable.
I think whether it was Legacy of Kain or the other games that I played during the time, it was always about vanquishing evil. Always. At least something I couldn't do in real life, I could at least do in a video game, yeah. These guys, I think, want to be football players, and hence I don't know, I don't think so. But still.
Do you enjoy football now? Like, do you sit through the game sometimes?
It's too late in the night, but I watch it, but I don't watch it as intensely and as feverishly as they do. But I watch it.
So, which team are you supporting now?
I'm trying to be a good wife, so I'll say Liverpool. My husband's not around, I'll be a good sister-in-law, say Arsenal. I have bought the home and away kits for both teams. So when none of this, then I have another brother-in-law who's like my brother, so I'll support his team, Man City. So I think I'm probably the kind of person that fans will generally hate. All these loyal fans are like, decide! No, I'm not going to decide. I just watch the game for the sake of it. For the sake of it, yeah.
Right.
I read this tweet somewhere that if you're supporting a team, then you're not supporting football. So I'd rather support football than a team.
Right. So what's coming up next for you, Chinmayi? Like
a lot of interesting songs and a couple of films that I've dubbed for. So concerts. That's about it.
Is acting on the cards? Will you ever act in films?
You really think so? No.
Somebody must have offered you some role.
They have. They have. Through time, they have. They thought that in Chennai, at least, they thought it would be nice to have a girl who spoke Tamil and blah blah blah. But I don't think I'm actress material.
You're being very self-critical there. No, how do you know?
No, that's there. That's most definitely there. But I'm very inhibited as a person. So I don't think I loosen up in front of the camera, especially for acting. It's easy to be an MC. Mm-hmm. It's easy to be a host for a show where you just have to be yourself. But I don't know if I can play a character well. I don't think so.
We'll see. I don't know. Something might come up, right?
We'll see. Poor director who is going to get tortured because of all that. I don't think anybody will take that risk in life. They shouldn't.
But you did act in a play, right? So wasn't that scary for you?
It was extremely scary. I hated it. I think on the first day I was like, why am I doing this in life? And after a point, Blase was a person who said, nobody is going to give you an Emmy or a Grammy or anything like that. Just can you loosen up and just be? And the only reason that I accepted to be a part of it was because Karthik Rajas has told me that it involves singing.
Okay.
And it did. It involved me singing and performing on stage, and he planned it as a very grand musical. He executed most of it, and for me, that was a very, and it was not too difficult, because more or less I think what we are performing on stage is what happened in the play. I had one scene with Mr. Manobala, and that was fun. He is such a super actor, and I think most times I was actually reacting to him too and laughing and forgetting that I was supposed to be acting on stage, so that, which is why I don't think I'll be a great actor. And actually being a part of a play where Nazar sir was a part of and stuff like that, and watching them improvise on stage right then and there, and all that was a lovely learning experience, and that I'm grateful for. When I think the stage and being a part of a stage play is very similar to being a part of a concert.
Okay.
Only that there are probably some dialogues involved, and had only one scene where and which also had some singing and 2 other songs, and that's about it. I didn't have much of acting to do in that play, really.
Right. Thank you so much for joining. But before I let you go, I have a series of questions. This segment is called One Shot. So
Okay.
you just get one chance. Whatever comes to your mind, you're supposed to say that. So we'll start now.
Okay.
Right. The first song which you ever heard in your life.
If I remember, it must have been some ghazal, but if I had to be really right about it, it must have been a song that my mom sang, maybe the first class. I don't remember. But why I remember Netrilada Matram from Pudhiya Mugam is because that was a song which made me tell myself that I'm going to be a playback singer. So I'm going to mention that song, and one Hariharan ghazal. Here I idolized him. Growing up, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to sing like him. So Jia Jia Na Jia, I think. Yeah,
Biggest regret of your life so far?
I have many.
One. Okay.
That I couldn't go to college like everybody else.
That still pricks you, is it?
Doesn't prick me. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I was actually mentioning to Rahul that I would have loved to probably go abroad and study and be a part of serious study at some point, but he said you can still go and do that. I said I don't think so, not right now.
First song that you ever sang, which you remember
In my life,
in your life.
must have been a Carnatic classical composition.
You don't remember what song it was?
It will be Rara Venu Gopa Bala Rajita Sadguna Jai Sheela.
Right.
Should be that.
First thing that came to your mind when you got that call from Rahman to come and sing for you?
It wasn't him. Srinivas sir asked me to come to Rahman's studio, and I went. And when I had no clue whether they were going to retain it. What am I going to do? Nobody tells you that. Even today, when there's a call from Rahman's studio, I go there not knowing what's going to happen. So it was. I think when I met him, it was like wow. I saw him, and then after a point, it's like okay, it's just like he makes sure that I have noticed him do this. He understands that people will be awestruck and maybe stop breathing after they meet him, but he has a way of dissipating it and making and talking to you just like a normal person, and being very cool about it. And it's only after you step out of the studio and then you realize, shit, I just worked with Rahman sir. Yeah.
If not singing, where would your life have been?
I would have been a singer, most definitely. There was no if not. Singing was not a choice.
You knew it at one point of time that you will be a singer, right? Craziest thing that you have ever done in your life?
Jumped off from something like a mezzanine floor, right? So there was this boy that I went to this village in Tamil Nadu to spend my holidays. So I think I was probably 11 or 10 or something. So he kept needling me, saying, "Now, Paiya, I am a boy, I can do this, I can jump off." And so there were these pile of mattresses that were kept out for sun drying. So there were probably some 20-25 mattresses. That gentleman this place, that a village that I went to, he was educating a lot of these village kids. So that house was full of kids from the local, the surrounding villages, and they would come and learn English and stuff like that, and also study. So I said, if you can jump, I can also jump. So he jumped, I also jumped. So it's probably at least 100 feet, I presume.
You jump from 100 feet.
I think so. Maybe. Okay, maybe keep it at 50. But, yeah. But I jumped.
Right. Bucket list. Like what's 1, 2, 3 on your bucket list?
Bucket list. I still wish I can somehow learn to play the piano. I want to be able to travel and collaborate with a lot of musicians.
Okay.
And I don't know. I wish there is some aspect of being a musician that I can discover within me that could surprise me.
Right. Your favorite singer right now?
Favorite singer right now in any
Anywhere, yeah.
has to be alive?
Yeah, preferably.
Preferably, okay. I'm going to say Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab. I know he's not around, but truly a matchless musician. I wish. Okay, I'll probably say Ghulam Ali Sahab. He's alive and he's a musician I really admire. And at some point, then the list is going to grow. I'm going to say Hariharan sir also, because I am amazed by the way he sings on stage. Shankar Mahadevan sir. The list will grow after that. But it's difficult to have to ask especially from a singer, to ask them to name one person that. Because for me, I keep wishing that I could have this aspect or that aspect or that aspect of a musician that. But you said singer, na?
Yeah, singer.
You said singer, yeah. Then
Right.
Ghulam Ali Sahab or Hariharan sir, Shankar Mahadevan sir.
One celebrity that you get starstruck whenever you meet him or her?
Superstar Rajinikanth. I remember meeting him and I was all teeth. I still remember that. And I think the first time I met him was at Vairamuthu sir's book launch several years ago. Then even then I tweeted and said the most inventive thing that anybody could have come up with was, sir, I am your big fan. So I said exactly that. I'm like, couldn't you come up with something more intelligent, you dumbass? But I did. Sir, now I'm a very fan. I know Chinmayi. Superstar knows my name. Superstar knows my name. So I was just jumping about in joy after that. And then the next time I met him was when I was dubbing for Linga. Then he waved to me through the console and I was like, yeah, the superstar said hi. So I walked out and he gave me a hug and said, how are you? How's your husband doing? Like, superstar knows me. Superstar shook my hand. Superstar told my name. So all that, all this happened. So he's one person who makes me starstruck. Kamala Hassan sir also, but I'm very afraid of him. I'm petrified of him actually. So whenever he's in the room, I actually try and see if I can vanish. I'm sure I've already vanished. I'm sure I'm not in his eyesight at all, but I'm petrified of him. Yeah.
At 50, what will you be, apart from being 50?
If not dead, I don't know. I have no clue, dude. I have no clue. I have no clue what's going to happen 50 minutes down the line. Wow, that's 50, yeah.
Right. Alright, Chinmayi, thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you. All the best for your future projects and concerts and songs, and I hope you act in films soon.
Okay, who are you? Okay.
Right.
Right, thanks.